I gave my Discord community the opportunity to ask me anything about F1. Here's the questions and my answers. Hello folks, and welcome to a slightly different style video we're going to be doing today here on the channel. It's a Q&A. I've not done one of these before, so this is kind of an experiment in the way I set this up. I'm trying to kind of keep it as in line with how I normally do things, as you would have seen by the intro and everything. And now I'm just waffling. So I think we should just get straight into the questions. I think that's probably the best way to do things. So the first question comes from Justin. He asks, who do I think will win the Drivers' World Championship this year? It's going to be Max Verstappen, but I think what you're going to see is the likes of Lando Norris, potentially Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz maybe Oscar Piastri as well, getting in there, giving him a hard time and possibly taking some wins off of the Dutchman. But at the time of recording, which is about an hour after the Spanish Grand Prix, he's got like 7 wins already this season, which is, yeah, I mean, if anyone's going to deny him, they've got to win the majority of the remaining races. And Red Bull, unless Verstappen literally gets super unlucky or gets hurt, is not going to squander that many victories. So it's going to be Verstappen. I think the bigger question is next year for 2025. I expect a full title tilt from Lando Norris next year. The next question comes from Tommy, and he asks, do you think you can win the Constructors with your team in F1 Manager 24? We'll definitely give it a really good go, and we'll stick with the story until at least we've won a Drivers' and a Constructors' Championship, hopefully, if we can reach that point. And yeah, we'll just see where that story takes us. Elite Silver asks, how frequent will the open lobbies be in the future? At the moment, they are basically not happening because of work time constraints. Yeah, they've always been ad hoc. In an ideal world, I would like to do 2 a month, sort of every other week. That was the original plan. I've just not quite been able to reach that yet through time and recording videos, work. So it's a bit of a floating thing. It moves around a lot, but they will return, and hopefully they will be more frequent. Germat7046 asks, what was my first F1 race and which race is my favourite? So my first race that I ever watched was the 1998 Belgian Grand Prix. It was pouring rain. There was a 15-car pile-up at the first start, so the race was stopped for an hour. Then there was another collision at the restart with Mika Hakkinen. Michael Schumacher crashed into David Coulthard and drove back to the pit lane with 3 wheels on his car, then tried to beat up Coulthard in the pit lane. And Damon Hill won for Jordan. So it's pretty safe to say that most races haven't lived up to that ever since, but the bar was set incredibly high, and there has been some amazing races since then. Favourite race? Suzuka 2005 is always a great watch because of the way it ended, the circumstances around it. It's an advocate for reverse grids, but there have been so many fantastic races over the years. Hockenheim 2018, where Lewis Hamilton came from 14th, got the win with the rain coming late on. Yeah, so many great races for so many different reasons. Formula Cryptic asks, when will you win a CRL league race? Well, when I fix my skill issue, that's probably going to be a good starting place. Justin's back with another question. He asks if I've got any plans for an F1 24 league. What would the format be and when would it be? So this is something that I have been looking at. At the moment, my concept is it would be beginner friendly because I want it to be fun and it's more for content. What I found is my own driving is worse when I'm creating content, but if I just focus on the driving, then I tend to go all right. And I want to find that balance between the driving and the content. So to start with, it would just be beginner friendly, less competitive. We'd work on a few sort of balancing issues in terms of balancing skill levels, perhaps. So not using equal cars, maybe using a top 10 in the championship, have to qualify on harder tyres sort of thing in qualifying, so you can maybe get a jumbled up grid, giving people a chance to race at the front essentially. And most likely it would be on a Friday night because That's usually the end of my work week. I don't usually work on a Saturday or a Sunday, so that would fit in quite nicely, I think. But these are all sort of loose ideas. I'm not tied down to anything yet, but it's definitely something that I'm considering. And yeah, watch this space. Another question from Tommy. He asks if Lando Norris is world champion material, in my opinion. And I think he is. Like I said earlier, expect a title bid from Lando next year. We're recording just after the Spanish Grand Prix, where he took a sensational pole position. Probably should have won the race. So if McLaren can deliver him the car in 2025, similar to they have now, then he will be absolutely ready to take on Max Verstappen. He is every inch a match for the Dutchman. And I think over the years, they're going to be very, very close. We're going to see a lot more of Max versus Lando at the front of Formula One. Talking of Max Verstappen, Callum has asked, do I think Max will ever be considered a greatest of all time? And do you think he should be one? I think he's got all the credentials to be considered among the very, very best. I think what you're seeing now in this day and age, there is just as much importance on how you conduct yourself off the track. That's where Lewis Hamilton has won himself a lot of admirers. Some people don't like Lewis Hamilton. Some people don't like Max Verstappen for the way he has conducted himself in the past. I think what we'll see, if Max has matured sort of with age, which everybody does, when the heat is on in the title battle, if he behaves in similar ways to the way he did in 2021 when he was up against Lewis, but also it's going to be different for him now because he's the hunted. Before, he was the hunter. So the vibe is very, very different. Will he be considered the greatest of all time? He already is. Justin in there with another question. He asks, who's my favourite driver and team, and what's the story behind it? So Lewis Hamilton's my favourite driver, and at the moment, Mercedes are my favourite team. But what I did find, when Lewis moved from McLaren to Mercedes, I realised I was a Lewis Hamilton fan more than a McLaren fan. Now, don't get me wrong, I love McLaren. They're a fantastic team with amazing history, and they're the team that I first started following, and they had my first favourite drivers in Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard. But when Lewis arrived, he was just this breath of fresh air for Formula One. Off the back of the Schumacher years, it was Alonso and Raikkonen, and you thought these two are going to be leading the charge. Hamilton turns up and is there immediately, a rookie fighting for the World Championship. It hadn't been seen since 1997, but Jacques Villeneuve was Jacques Villeneuve was slightly different. He'd had a lot of success out in America. So yeah, I've kind of followed Lewis, and I think once he moves on, I'll just be open to whoever's, I don't want to say best, but the British drivers, I always want them to do well. But whoever's impressing me the most, I think it'll become a bit more open. Elite Silver asks, how did you decide to become a journalist? Well, I spent 10 years as a sports coach, and getting into journalism was always something that I wanted to do when I was younger, but I changed my career path, and you don't always have to follow that straight line. You can go away and you can get that important life experience. That's really, really important. And now coming back to journalism and sort of working my way through that, I feel as a little bit older in age, I'm more prepared to deal with the ups and downs of journalism, and I'm a bit better off for it. So it was always something I wanted to do, and an opportunity arose. I decided to move my career in a different direction, and I'm loving it. Pulse Potato and CRL Louis both asked very similar questions, which were basically, what inspired you to start doing YouTube? This was kind of following on from my previous answer to Elite Silver. I wanted to get into journalism. Podcasting was big at the end of sort of 2019. I came up with the concept of the 5 red lights, and it just became a bit of an experiment, learning how to deliver sort of reporting and telling stories and things like that, and giving opinions. So it's led to all these other different things, and when F1 Manager 23 came out, I decided to change the concept of the channel, and it's gone from strength to strength, and I've got you guys to thank for that. And the final question then is from Callum. He asks, what are my plans for your team on F1 Manager 24? I will do another video towards just before the release of F1 Manager 24, talking about this a bit more in depth, but my initial ideas are to start with all AI generated people within the team. So maybe not the drivers, we might have one real driver or maybe two real drivers in there, but all the staff are going to be AI generated. So we're not going to be picking people from any other teams, and we can we can reduce the ratings, sort of put the parameters on that, and then we can build the team essentially. As we go along, we might pick up some real world people, or we might just keep it as AI generated people within the team, and let's build a story in that way. But it's going to be hopefully a really fun journey, and we're going to have custom liveries. We might have votes. We'll definitely have votes on, what liveries can come next for next season. So you guys can have your input as well. And once we get underneath the skin of the game, I'm sure we'll make some friends, some great friends who come with us on the journey. I'm sure we'll see some people leave the team, and we'll make some enemies along the way. So I think that's going to be really fun to sort of tell that story, which is kind of why I do these videos, is to build a narrative, share a story. And it's less of a here's how to play the game. It's more this is my experience, and it's going to be every story is going to be different on the new game. So I'm really looking forward to that. So that's all the questions that were submitted. Thank you to everyone who did send a question in. I'll look to do more of these in the future, but for now, thank you very much for watching. You're the best fans. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.